Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to VALORANT News. Masters Copenhagen is here in just a couple of days time. We're going to talk about some potential power rankings as well as to what they might look like. With the Sentinels guys that certainly need to find a fifth player right now. SicK has confirmed he's going to be out of the team for probably many months at this point, likely until the start of next season. And one player that we did consider could be the fifth player on the team has confirmed it's not going to be him. Very much intrigued your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Videos on the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Plenty to dive into today. First of all, wanted to mention this later on today. OpTic Gaming coming out with the process documenting the journey behind their triumph, of course, in Masters 1. So pretty good time to release this, honestly, right just before Masters 2 is going to begin in Copenhagen. Whether they can replicate this run is another story, but OpTic always do a great job of these kind of documentary stuff. Shame there was no crowd at this venue, right? But still, like, I'm sure the footage and the videography is going to be absolutely spectacular. Whether they can continue that run or make it happen again is another question. Of course, last time around, OpTic were the second seed from North America. They went through the kind of group stages. They lost to Xerxia. They somehow made it out of the group anyway, and then won the entire tourney. This tourney could be a very similar story. Some are saying, are they number one in the world? Are they number two in the world? They're certainly one or the other, I would say right now. Let's see how it goes, though. Wanted to mention 100 Thieves, of course, real quick. They're going to get ready for the last chance qualifier relatively soon. Did have a few interesting words to say on this, actually. Just from Will, as he says, delete the agent, please. It just prints Elo, right? So he's talking about Chamber. Everyone's still talking about Chamber right now. The Chamber discussion is not going away, and that's one of the key storylines I want to keep my eyes on here at Masters, right, is that the North American teams, they love using Chamber in their compositions. The teams around the world aren't quite so convinced. I even saw an article that Forsaken on Paper X was saying that he's the best Yoru in the world by far. Like, we don't really see much Yoru action in North America, but in other regions, teams like Paper X have tried him out. So, like, we're going to see a real clash of compositions, I think, between the different regions, where the NA teams are always going to pick Chamber, and are just going to say this guy's unbelievable, and in fairness, so are the other regions, but still, like, the percentage pick rate is actually much lower from Chamber, or for Chamber, in the other regions than NA. So definitely going to see some clashes of styles, but I guess Will practicing Chamber for what they think could be an LCQ run. So it's been an interesting one, actually, because if Will, he was kind of formerly the duelist player, like now he's going to be on the Chamber, so like maybe some interesting role changes going on at the 100 Thieves camp as well. And even as Zelsis says, can't decide what role to play, Sentinel, duelist, initiator, or controller, just pick Chamber and it's going to be absolutely fine. Now this also a bit of drama was going on yesterday, kind of in the kind of tier 2, low tier 1 scene, where Tokyo VALORANT says that tier 2, low tier 1 players keep recycling the same old players, expecting things to change. And even as, you know, Dagton Hayes from NRG has some thoughts in the reply. He kind of agrees with this statement here. Feel like a lot of top teams keep recycling the same players because they don't feel like, or they just do not have the resources to probably develop raw talent. If those players took the initiative and worked on fundamentals instead of getting high ACS, who knows what could happen, right? So kind of calling out some of these kind of lower tier 1, tier 2 type players that, you know, seemingly are very consistent in not delivering on the teamwork perspective, right? Vanity from Cloud9 says, tweets like this are always the funniest because a lot of people get trials, but they simply aren't very good at teammates, right? They're not actually good teammates, they can't call out, so they don't get offered. Like Roy says, you know, what you don't like players who have insane mechanics, but don't know how to talk in retakes and post plants. And, you know, of course, Valid also has some thoughts on this from the guard side as well. So definitely I thought it was an interesting discussion, and I think this was coming up mainly because there was an NSG Mickey Mouse type tourney going on last night. These are the results of it so far. The guards, interesting of note, are actually playing this one, right? So they're trying to get their practice in. That's the thing, some of these teams that are making the LCQ, some of them are already practicing in these online tournaments, some of them are not as of yet. If you're Sentinels, of course, there's a bootcamp ongoing, or not ongoing as of yet, but they're going to try and get it set up with whoever their fifth man is going to be. But yeah, the guard have been playing this one. Honestly, there was some surprisingly close series, I thought, here for the guards. They played Lenny time, that was, of course, mocking in the boys, and Valorant had a really tough series, actually, right here, but still, the guard closing out eventually on bind at 14-12 after an overtime, so it was far from an easy series for the guard. So from dominating the North American online side, they're now kind of struggling through an NSG tournament. Obviously doesn't tell the whole picture, but something to keep your eyes on at the very least. They will play Saw later on today, who took down Sonics, and of course some other teams of note playing in this one, a Crew and the like. NYFU once again out in the first round. Like that team hasn't really worked out for them, at least so far. Even Mocking says lost 2-1 versus the guards, too many small mistakes in the high pressure situations, right? Going to turn this L into a lesson, you reckon? So yeah, definitely a lot going on in the North American side right now, and certainly with Sentinels. Hope you guys can excuse me once again having a Sentinels video, but the reality is that not that much has been happening in the last few days outside of the Sentinels stuff, in which there seems to be an update at this point every single day, because everyone wants to know who's going to be their fifth player. Like, so many guys could excuse that one, but as ShahZaM says, expect the unexpected, or unexpect the, you know, whatever. I'm not going to say that again. Now, SicK was streaming again yesterday for the second day in a row. We looked at the clip yesterday where he kind of said, okay, the more I stream, the better I feel. So, like, that was obviously great news. Really difficult time for SicK the last few months. Hopefully he's, well, feeling better. He seems to be feeling better, but he does not seem to be feeling well enough that he can play the LCQ. And I think he's told the team that, like, look, find a fifth player because I'm just not sure that I'm going to be the man for the job. So it's a really tough time. And of course, look, after the LCQ is over at the end of August, unless they qualify for the World Championship, which is rather unlikely, but I suppose it's still possible, then, you know, what is SicK going to do until next year, right? So a couple of clips come out last night. He was asked on stream, like, you know, how long are you going to be out of the team for? Is it going to be a few weeks, few months? Or, you know, what is the situation, right? Let's say Sentinels miraculously got through the LCQ, qualified for Champions. Would he come back into the team for that if they get a short-term substitute? But then again, if they did win the LCQ with whatever team of 5 they're going to have, like, you know, would they actually want to do that, right? Or would they want to just stick with their roster anyway? So SicK says, you know, probably he's going to be out for at least a few months. Also goes on to say that he, you know, is feeling pretty sad that he can't, like, scrim, and he's reminiscing about the times that he did used to and have a good time. So I'm sure he'll get back into it at some point. Hopefully that is the case. But he is not going to be back in the team for the medium term.
Right, left side.
One enemy remaining.
How long is a while?
Get him!
I don't know.
Yeah. Dude, why do I have like 4 4Ks, but I can't get an 8th.
Never. Move in, Mr. 4K.
What that was Mr. 4K, that guy's too good.
A while, meaning
There's actually all 5 of them, dude.
at least a few months.
Yeah.
Or more.
Kyra.
Honestly,
Sides.
it makes me happy I'm doing well, but I'm also sad because it brings back a lot of memories. Now I'm just like, kid. But at least I'm doing well.
So, of course, that does raise the question. With SicK out for pretty much the rest of this year, I guess the organization and his players have told him, like, just take the time off. We'll come back next year, right? And who knows what's going to happen next year, because, like, we go into a franchise world next year where Sentinels may or may not have a partner spot. They probably will. But, of course, if this year doesn't end out too well, does ShahZaM move into content creation? Does he go full-time streamer? What happens to TenZ? Like, if SicK is back, what's going to happen there? So, many questions really going into next season as to what actually happens with the Sentinels team, or pretty much any team in the VCT right now. What does the roster look like? It could be very different next season. So another organization might come along and say, hey, SicK, we want you to play for us, and he joins them instead. So there's many options next year. So that's the thing. He's not going to be playing, it seems, until the franchise side. And organizations also have to be confident in his return, because if you're an organization getting into franchising or partnership, whatever, and you want to pick up SicK, but you're not sure if he is, you know, going to potentially be stepping out if issues recur, then that might kind of, you know, make teams question actually getting even a player with SicK's talents, right? So difficult stuff. Now, of course, the other side of this is, who's the player who's actually going to step in for SicK for the last chance qualifier? It's not going to be Raucus. We theorize. Could it be Sinatraa? Could it be Zoms? These are the questions going around. Could it be Xander? Could he take over the jail responsibilities? One player that was noticed was actually JohnQT over at the Ghost Gaming side. Gets on with TenZ, could potentially run a chamber. There were some options there that JohnQT, of course, from Ghost, not at the LCQ, a player that got double first rounded at, of course, at playoffs, even gave Sentinels a chance to go to the LCQ, has actually said on stream last night that, I think maybe it was the night before, he was getting asked about this. Are you joining Sentinels? What's going on? And he says that, you know, look, that's not the case effectively. Like, these situations, even if I was, I wouldn't be telling you guys. But I think by his kind of body language, he was getting a bit frustrated that people keep asking about this stuff, and says it's not even funny. Like, no, I'm not joining Sen.
Are you joining Sentinel? Yes. Dude, I'm not joining Sentinels, man. You guys are so annoying. Okay, guys, even if someone is joining a team, they will never say yes until they sign the contract. Until it's announced, even if they are signed the contract, it can't be that hard to understand that. You're trying to... I'm not... it's not funny. It's not funny. I'm annoyed. It's literally not funny.
So I guess we've narrowed down the possible pool of players that might be joining Sentinels from about, 50 down to 49. So, great news, everyone. We've made some progress here, but definitely tweet your thoughts on that in the comment section, because I think some people theorized it, and it seems like that's not going to be the case, at least based on that clip, but I suppose unexpect the expected, and we'll see what happens from there. Let's talk Masters Copenhagen, right? FNS and OpTic, they're looking to defend their crown. These were the power rankings for Masters Copenhagen. Thought these were rather interesting, so we're just going to dive into this. I suppose we can start at the bottom here, right? So FPX with subs are down here at number 12, which I think is probably justifiable, but I still think that FPX, even with substitutes with Angel on the team, can actually cause some damage. I don't know if they'll get out of their group though, so I suppose on that merit they probably have to stay here, but still, Crew Esports, like, honestly, they're maybe not quite as strong as they used to be, but put them up against a North American team, they're still probably going to do something, or against a Brazilian team, for example. They play Loud, I think, in the first round. Guild Esports as well, certainly a team with a fair bit of promise, but maybe not in position to make a crazy run this tournament. Looking forward to seeing how they get on though. Xerxia, Leviathan, Northampton Neptune up here in 7th I thought was rather interesting, just because I guess that these guys are putting a fair bit of stock into the Japanese region, because we know what Zeta did last time and came, I think it was 4th they came last time. North Neptune beat them here, so if that's the case, they must be a force to be reckoned with as well. Exit number 6, tied with FPX, so they actually did have their full team, which does not seem like it's going to be the case. And then we get into the top 5, right? So DRX, of course, they were there or thereabouts last time. PaperX, I'm pretty sure, came top 3 at the last major as well. So DRX, PaperX, I think honestly, all things considered, it makes a fair bit of sense having it in this order, but it's honestly very hard to predict how things are going to go. And then these are the top 3. So 2 of these 3 teams are the 2 finalists last time around, and then one, of course, being Fnatic. A lot of people think Fnatic right now are playing the best Valorant in the world. Whether they have enough to actually win this tourney is another question. I personally think they are the favourites for it, and I'm not sure I would necessarily put them number 1 though, because like at the end of the day, OpTic have played incredibly good and consistent Valorant for many months, and at these big tournaments do tend to turn up. Can Fnatic do that? Young players, like, you know, put them in a grand finals in front of a crowd against the reigning champions in OpTic. Are they going to be able to perform at their level? That's another question. So with those things considered, maybe OpTic do still deserve number 1 for now. Loud though are there or thereabouts. They haven't even lost a map. I think the same with DRX in their region respectively so far this stage, but you know, we know what happened last time. They looked really good. They got to the grand finals, got 3-0'd by OpTic there, right? But yeah, they are still in this ballpark. So I feel like this list on the whole is pretty good. I would say Fnatic on their peak performances are the best team in the world, but until proven otherwise, OpTic maybe still deserve the number 1 spot. But definitely tweet your thoughts on that one in the comment section below. Speaking of Masters, of course, we've got this to mention as well here from Willminder once again. He brings out great stats every single day. Top 10 rated initiators going into Masters 2 based on, of course, their regions, right? So you're going to have this a little bit biased based on their region. The likes of Sadak and Sacy are going to have good numbers because they're playing in the Brazilian side where they are by far the best team, and that's why you're kind of getting no NA players. But you are even getting Enzo here, of course, from the European side, and that Fnatic team done a great job since he stepped into the lineup. I think formerly known as Fearoth, but now is Enzo. But given the competition of the region, Leo has insanely high stats here on the Guild on the Sova with the 1.22. So thought that was definitely a story of note, because Guild were kind of low down the rankings that we just looked at, but I still think they are a threat depending on who they come up against in this tournament. But that's going to do it for today. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button, tell us your YouTube gods it's a good video, and also like you should see it as well. And I've grown the competitive Valorant community. Thank you much as always. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.